Good morning, everyone, and happy Friday to you all. Warm greetings to parents, guardians, family, and district representatives. I'm Shavery Jones, and I'm thrilled to welcome you to the virtual series of Newton County Schools Parent Connects. As a part of the Instructional Technology and Media Services team, our focus revolves around the 3E model designed to provide students and teachers with valuable experiences that foster active engagement and ensure diverse exposure. In today's session, you will have the opportunity to hear from Ms. Jessica Harris, the school's climate specialist and PBIS district coordinator. She will provide us with information about positive parenting. Please note that this session is being recorded and you will be able to access this recording through our Parent Connect Canvas page. Following the presentation, we'll engage in a question and answer session. So please feel free to share your questions in the chat box and we'll address them at that time. Ms. Harris, take it away.
Just want to thank everybody for being here and taking time out of your day to hear what I have to say. This presentation actually has probably been one of the hardest ones for me to prepare for, and I think mainly because it is the most personal to me. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so um, just to let you know, not only am I a school climate specialist, but I also am the mother of four fabulous children. And I said that, the presentation was one of the most hardest for me because it's the most personal. My identity as a mom is really, really important to me. And it's honestly the one that I um, really relish the most. And it being a mom has been my most joyous experience ever, but it has also brought me the most sorrow and has been one of the hardest experiences of my life. So with this presentation, I just wanted to share that the material is offered as general and helpful information to parents. It is not intended to replace clinical advice or to provide comprehensive evaluate information or strategies to deal with all situations that could arise during parenting. Because, as those of you know, it can be very difficult, it can be very challenging, and it can be very rewarding. And you don't always know what's going to come your way. So these are just some tips to help you be a more positive parent. So first, I want to talk about the mission and vision of Newton County Schools. So the vision is that all students will be well-rounded and prepared for the future. And the mission is for us to provide educational excellence for all students. So here you have a picture of my 23-year-old daughter, Naya, when she graduated from Eastside High School. I want to talk about my personal why, just to kind of give you some information as to why I do what I do and why this is so important to me. My personal why is to positively impact the learning experience for all. And I have all in caps because when I say all, I'm not just talking about students. As a school climate specialist, I really work with the adults in the district. So I want the adults in the district to have a positive experience in the school system, but I also want parents and community members to have a positive experience with the school district. So that's really my passion, and that's really why I do what I do. So here you have three more of my kids, and I show pictures of my children because the lens that I'm looking through when I talk about positive parenting is the lens of their parent. So I'm going to give you stories. I might, show an example or say something about them. So just to kind of let you know who I'm talking about, there's my three that are currently in school, Cassidy, Ansley, and Griffin. So I have a 15-year-old, a 13-year-old, and a 7-year-old. So as I'm talking about this positive parenting, they're kind of my example. So first and foremost, when I was writing this presentation, I was like, what do I want parents to know? What is important? So I really wanted to talk to you about the brain because it is important for us to understand how our children's brain works and how our own brain works. And 23 years ago, when I was becoming, had my first daughter, I didn't have this information. And now that I look back, I really wish that I would have. So, first, I want to talk about the brain. It develops from the stem up. So, a lot of times in education, when we talk about the brain, we kind of do the hand as the model. So, here, that your wrist and your arm is your stem, in your thumb is your amygdala. And if you wrap your hand around, this is the brain and the prefrontal cortex. So, your brain develops from the stem first. The stem is what they call the reptilian brain, and that's your survival brain. So that is, breathing, just things that you have to do to survive. It's also the part that when you're thinking about safety, it's that stem that when you're looking at your safety. Then you have your as the brain develops, the stem develops first, and then it goes around to your prefrontal cortex. Your prefrontal cortex, it forms last, and it usually isn't fully developed until around the age of 25. So then you have the amygdala, which is your thumb, and it's kind of the inside of your brain. And your amygdala controls your fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response to stressors. So when you're thinking of your amygdala, I want you to think about something happens, and it's going to tell your body whether you need to fight off harm and danger, whether you need to freeze, whether you need to flee or run away, or whether you take a fawn situation where when they talk about fawn, they're talking about you doing whatever you need to do to get out of that situation. And the amygdala, we're going to talk a little bit more about that because it's really important in brain development. The prefrontal cortex, like I talked about, how it develops last, usually around the age of 25 is when it's fully developed. It is going to be in charge of the executive functioning of the brain. So when I talk about executive functioning, I'm talking about the planning, decision making, problem solving, self control. And that develops last. Then I want you to think about 90% of the brain is developed by the age of 5. So your parietal lobe, your occipital lobe, your cerebellum, your temporal lobe, all of that is typically fully formed and developed by the age of 5. So looking at the graphic, it tells you things as parents that we can do. So at birth, we want to make our kids feel safe, emotionally safe. When they cry, we pick them up. When they're hungry, we feed them. Our cerebellum between birth and 1 year, it's movement, balance, coordination, letting our kids move, taking them to places where they can experience things where they're going to be physically active, the playground, just giving them activities where we're requiring them to do a lot of movement and balance, working on those walking skills. And just kind of as we go around with our parietal lobe language, we're going to be singing, reading to them, listening to them. So this just is a graphic to kind of show us a little bit more that we can do to help our children's brain develop. So when thinking about the brain, I wanted to briefly talk about trauma. Trauma is an event that a child finds overwhelmingly distressing or emotionally painful, often resulting in a lasting mental or physical effect. So, an example of this would be my daughter Naya. When she was in middle school, we would drive every day after school the same path from the town square to my daughter's daycare at Discovery Point. Within a month, we were rear-ended twice on that road in almost the same exact place. So that was a traumatic experience for Naya. So now Naya is 23. And even now, when we're in the car and somebody's putting the brakes on, she automatically is looking in the side mirror to see how close the person is behind us because that was a traumatic experience for her. So trauma impacts the brain. A traumatized brain is a bottom heavy brain, meaning that thinking and emotion regulation centers are underactivated and that the fear center, the stem of the brain, is more active. When a child experiences a lot of trauma and that trauma is happening over time, they have a decreased sense of security. Their stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline, are more active in the body. Sometimes you see an increase in behavior problems, and the brain is just kind of wired to expect danger. So, I'm not going to talk a lot about trauma, but I just kind of wanted to hit on it so you know that trauma does impact the brain. Now I want to talk about the amygdala. And the amygdala is really important not only for our children and us to understand how our children's brain is working, but also to understand our own brains. There have been times in my parenting journey that I have not been the best parent that I could have been, and that my amygdala was hijacked. And when your amygdala is hijacked, that's when it's flight, fright, freeze, or fawn, and you're in a stressful situation and you're trying to do the best that you can to cope. Sometimes, like an example of that would be this week when my son, we were trying to hurry up and get out of the house in the morning. He had lost his shoes. Now he has a place to put his shoes, but sometimes he doesn't put them where they need to go. So he's looking for his shoes. And I'm like, son, come on, we got to hurry. Come on, dude, come on. I'm running late. We got to hurry. We're going to be late. Now, that kind of got my amygdala taken over my brain because I was thinking of all the things going on that I still needed to do. I needed to get to work on time. And that was also triggering a response in him. So when our amygdala is hijacked, we need to try to think of some strategies so that we can get back in control. One of the things I like to think about is deep breathing. Deep breathing kind of centers the body. And one of the things when I'm thinking of deep breathing, I think about smell the flowers and blow out the candle. So it's not just breathing regularly how we always breathe, it's very um, focused, where you're taking very deep breaths, holding them in, try to count to 5, and then blowing them out. So when Griffin's amygdala is hijacked and he's upset and he's frustrated, I do the same thing with him. I'm like, remember, buddy, we got to take some deep breaths. It's going to help you calm down. Remember, smell the flowers. So I have him smell the flowers. Blow out the candle. So we practice that strategy when the kids are upset. Try to change the setting. Sometimes you just have to like leave the situation. I don't know if anyone else here has done this where sometimes you just have to go into the bathroom because you know that's a place where the kids are not going to follow you. And you just kind of have like a little woosah moment where you change the setting, you kind of pull yourself away. Name the emotion. How are you feeling? I'm upset. I'm frustrated. I'm angry. Remember to count your blessings. Think of all the good things that are going on. This is also a time where you kind of reflect on what happened. So after my amygdala got hijacked because Griffin couldn't find his shoes, we had a conversation and I was like, buddy, remember, where are you supposed to put your shoes when you come into the house? By the front door. I was like, yes. And the reason why I ask you to put your shoes by the front door is so that way you always know where they're at. So we had that conversation and we kind of reflected on what had happened. Another thing that you can do is use your senses. So I like to call this strategy the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 game, where I try to notice 5 things that I can see, 4 things that I can physically touch, 3 things that I can hear, 2 things that I can smell, and 1 thing that I can taste. And this is just another strategy to help you when your amygdala is hijacked. The reason why I wanted to talk about this is because so often our children's amygdala hijacks their brain and they have a hard time coping with what it is that they're feeling. And when this is happening, that's not a time for you to try to talk to them about the situation. When they're throwing a temper tantrum, That's not a time for you to try to rationalize with a 2 or 3-year-old that you can't always get what you want because their amygdala has taken over their brain. But what you can do is try to use some of these strategies where you change the setting, tell them to breathe, name the emotions. A lot of times, children do not have the ability to express what it is that they're feeling. So, talking to them about those emotions is really, really important. So this slide, it was kind of twofold. It was kind of something to remind us, but also to give us strategies that we can use when our children are experiencing an amygdala hijacking. So now we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of positive parenting. So with positive parenting, basically you're using positive strategies with your children. You're showing them love, you're showing them affection, you're showing them kindness. And when you do this, you're teaching them and you're encouraging them and you're modeling to them how it is you want them to behave. Positive parenting helps our kids thrive. It lets them know that they're loved, that they matter, and that they are good. So, what does research tell us about positive parenting? Basically, what research tells us is that when parents utilize positive parenting strategies, their students or their children are going to be better prepared for school. They're going to behave more appropriately, and they're going to experience increased mental wellness. Also, when positive parenting strategies are utilized, that prefrontal cortex is more engaged. So they're better able to control their emotions and use their cognition or thinking skills in their teenage years. And I don't know about you, but my goal as a parent is to get them prepared for their future. I need to prepare them for when I'm not going to be there to take care of their every need. And so right now I'm trying to guide them so that they're prepared for the future and will be contributing citizens to the community. So for adulthood, research shows that when children have experienced positive parenting throughout their childhood, that once they reach adulthood, they're more likely to have increased mental well being and they're able to make lasting and meaningful relationships with others better. So, one thing I want you to think about is to parent with pride. And when I talk about pride, I'm talking about praise, reflection, imitation, description, and enjoyment. And I'm going to talk about each of those, but where I really, really, really want to focus on is praise. If there was one tool that I could give you as a parent, it would be the utilization of positive praise. That is the one thing that you can do today to change your child's behavior. So with praise, we're loving what our kids do. And so praise is a positive statement that we use with our kids. Now, when we are using these positive statements, we have to be very deliberate so that our children know exactly what it is that we are acknowledging. So we could say just a base, good job. That is not telling them what exactly they did good. So we need to be explicit when we're giving them their praise. So thank you for cleaning up your toys when you finished playing. You did your best on the test. I'm proud of you. I love how you helped your brother with homework. I love seeing you practice soccer. So when we use positive praise, we make our kids feel good and we help mold their inner voice. They are what they hear. If they are constantly hearing uplifting things and hearing positive things, that's what they're going to believe about themselves. If they're constantly hearing, you know, you could have done better. Why didn't you do this? You didn't try hard enough. That is tearing down their self-esteem. So when you use praise, you're strengthening their self-esteem, you're strengthening their self-concept, you're guiding them, you're letting them know what it is that you expect. And with positive praise, you're more likely to see that behavior that you acknowledged in the future. You get what you pay attention to. So if you're paying attention to negative things and you're always pointing out negatives, that's what you're going to see. A lot of times, students' behavior, and I keep saying students because typically I'm talking to teachers, and I apologize for that. So I'm trying to remember, I'm talking about kids this time, our children this time. So when you're when you're acknowledging children, you get what you see. And if you're always acknowledging the negative, that's what you're going to see, because a lot of times behavior serves the function of either escaping something or attaining something, wanting to get something. A lot of times kids are trying to get attention, whether they're behaving positively or negative, it's to get our attention. So if we're always giving them attention for the positive things that they're doing, we're more likely to see the positive from them. So with praise, I want you to label the praise. Be specific on what it is you saw them doing. So thank you so much for picking up your toys. I really liked how you put your shoes by the front door when you took them off. That way you knew exactly where they'd be. Um, be specific in exactly outlining what it was that they did correct. Also, I want you to think about praise in baby steps. So, not only are we going to praise them for the big things that they did, wow, you made a 100 on that test. I'm really proud of you. I know you studied hard. We're going to praise them for the steps along the way. I know you studied, you did your best. Next time, I know you're going to make that good grade. So praise the effort, not just the big thing. Um, so, if they're playing football and they didn't win, but they worked really, really hard. I really liked how you made that tackle. I really liked how you were focused. Good job. And always just praise the effort, because sometimes they're doing all that they can, even if the outcome wasn't the outcome you were wanting. Praise with your words and your body. So in my family, we show emotion a lot with physical touch. So adding a smile, rubbing their back, giving them a high five, a thumbs up, all that's really important. So the next step in pride is reflection. And with reflection, we're repeating back what it is that our child said, but we're going to elaborate on it. So it shows that we're listening. It promotes that back and forth communication. So I know sometimes, like, I have to get with my or remind my children, like, somebody said good morning to them and they didn't say good morning back. They just gave them a smile. Like, remember, when somebody says good morning, you say good morning back, or you say hello back. So it promotes that back and forth conversation, and it helps with language development. So if a child says he braked it, you could repeat, oh, he broke it. He broke the jar when it fell. Or pretty, if they're talking about an object. Oh, that's such a pretty blue butterfly. So you're adding words to it. So you're increasing the vocabulary skills. So with Griffin, he has a hard time saying action. And I have a hard time remembering how he says it incorrectly. But whenever he says action figure, he doesn't say action correctly. So I'm like, oh, you want the Miles Morales action figure? And then he will say, action, mommy, action. And then he'll repeat it after me. So it helps with that language development skills. Next is imitation, and that's doing what your child does. And so when you do that, you're making them feel important, and it's allowing you to get kind of on their level, and it's helping with social skills. So although I know it takes time out of our day, when our child is playing Tea Party, get down there and play Tea Party with them. If your son is playing dinosaurs, or somebody's playing with cars, get down with them and play. When you get down with them, you are showing them that what they're doing is important, but you're also teaching them that reciprocal play. So you take a turn, they take a turn. Sharing, you share the doll, they share the doll. So you're teaching them good interpersonal relationship skills when you get down there and you imitate what it is that they're doing. The next is description. Say what they're doing. So this, you're going to talk about what they're doing. So, oh, you're showing baby Griffin a doll. You're teaching him how to hold the doll. You added those two numbers together. Good job. You figured it out. So when you're saying what it is that they're doing, I almost think of a sportscaster when I'm thinking of this. You're doing play by play what your child is doing. When you do that, they see that you're interested in what it is that they're doing, and it increases their attention span. So if typically they only do something for a short amount of time, if you're over there play by playing what it is that they're doing, they're going to interact with that or engage with that item or that activity longer. It also teaches the kids vocabulary. They're all the time, they're like sponges and they're taking in everything that we're saying and doing. And so when you get down there and you're doing that, you're letting them know that they matter and you're really helping them just retain information. Enjoyment, show warmth and enthusiasm. So basically, it's what it says. You're just going to use positivity with your words, with your actions. It's going to strengthen that parent child bond. And when they're little, that is kind of natural, but as they mature and get older, you're going to see that that parent child bond is going to come more into play because then they're going to have outside forces that are going to influence them more. Right now, when they're younger, 2 to 5, they're really in tune with their parents, but as they get older, they're more in tune with their peers. So showing that warmth and enthusiasm will help with that parent child bond. And also it models positivity. So it lets them know what it is that they're expecting. So a prime example of this is every morning when I wake up my kids, I'm like, good morning. I'm like, rise and shine, wakey, wakey, eggs and bakey. That's kind of what I say to them and how I wake them up. So this morning, I was actually tweaking my PowerPoint, making sure I had everything like I wanted it. And so I asked my 15-year-old to wake up the 12-year-old, the 13-year-old. And I'm downstairs listening to her, and she is telling her sister, come on, it's time to get up, wakey, wakey, eggs and bakey. So they model what it is that they hear and they see. So, ways that you can show enjoyment are eye contact, hugs and kisses, putting your arm around them, patting them on the back, laughing together, talking in a warm and animated voice. I think when they're younger, that's easier for us. And as they get older, that's a little bit harder for us to do. Letting them know that we enjoy being with them. So now I'm done talking about pride, and now I want to talk about typical development and positive parenting strategies for each stage. So the graphic earlier talked about how by the age of 5, 90% of a child's brain is developed. So we still have that prefrontal cortex that they're still, fine tuning and focusing on. So this I really wanted to talk about because this is so important, but from birth to 3 and 4 on how well the kids or your child can do when they get to school. So yes, a lot of you, you may not have infants at home, but this is important stuff for their development. So, 0 to 1, from 0 to 1, their vision is developing, they're exploring, they're learning around them, they're reaching for objects, they're learning language, they're babbling, and they're really developing that bond of love and trust. And so when that bond of love and trust is developed, their brain is better able to grow and mature. So at this stage, we're talking to our kids, we're reading to them, we're singing to them, we're spending time, we're cuddling. And also, it's really important at this stage that we are taking care of ourselves, that we are making sure we're physically, mentally, and emotionally secure. Because as a parent, if we're not taking care of ourselves, we can't take care of our kids. Toddlers 1 to 2, the terrible twos, as we like to call it, they're taking their first steps, they're maturing, they are continuing to explore, they're getting more active, they're recognizing their name. And so at this stage, it's really important that we're considering safety and that we're, keeping them out of harm's way, that we're praising the behaviors that we want to see, that we're growing their language skills by naming stuff. I remember my husband telling me like, "Jessica, why are you saying everything? You don't need to say cup because you're giving them their sippy cup." And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, you do, because that's how you're teaching them language. They're mimicking what we say and what we do." Asking them to name their body parts, and of course, reading to your child daily and fostering that love of reading. So for toddlers, 2 to 3, developmental milestones is following 2 and 3 step directions, which this is going to become very important when they become school age and their teachers and educators are giving them multi-step directions to follow. Taking turns, playing make believe. All of these skills are really, really important when it comes to school age children. We want these skills to be developed so that they're taking turn at the water fountain and they're taking the turn at recess. And when you start doing that when they're younger, they're better able to have those skills developed when they reach school age. Coloring with the fisted grasp, imitating the actions of others. You're continuing with potty training. And in this, the positive parenting tips, really limit the attention that you display or that you give to them when they're doing unwanted behaviors such as tantruming. As long as they're not hurting themselves or hurting others, sometimes it's okay to ignore the temper tantrums, walk out of their direct eyesight. When you're focusing your attention on that negative behavior, you're reinforcing that negative behavior. Making sure that you're giving them praises for when they do follow directions or exhibit positive behavior, and teaching them short songs, helping them with their recall skills, and of course, fostering that love of reading every day is so important. So 3 to 5, you're looking at they're naming colors, they're riding a tricycle using safety scissors, fostering independence by dressing themselves, they're recalling parts of a story. And as a positive parent, what you can do here is foster responsibility. Give them simple chores where they pick up their shoes or pick up their socks and put them in the dirty clothes. We're setting clear expectations and we're correcting those unwanted behaviors, and when we do that, we want to focus on what it is we want to see. So instead of using language like stop running, we're telling them walking feet. So say what it is that you want. Um, and teaching them the behaviors you want to see. So, modeling those behaviors is really important because at this stage, they're imitating a lot of what they see. Middle childhood. So now we're getting into the fun stages. They're developing independence, dressing themselves, throwing a ball, tying their shoes. Um, they're distancing themselves a little bit away from their parents right now. Early childhood parents are kind of like the center of their world. Right now, they're paying more attention to their peers. They're developing friendships, and those friendships are starting to become a little bit more important than their relationship with their parents, or they're valuing those relationships a little bit more. They also start to focus less on themselves and focus more on each other. And some positive parenting tips here that I want to kind of stress is developing a nighttime routine. As we know, once they hit school age, they really start spending less time with their parents. Um, they spend the majority of their day at school. And then by the time they get home, it's, you're going to this activity, that activity, mom and dad are cooking dinner or grandma's cooking dinner. You're, focused on homework. So developing a nighttime routine is really, really important. Sitting at the dinner table together, talking about what has happened at school. Um, them doing evening chores, brushing their teeth, getting ready for bed, taking their bath. So having that routine a lot of times help with any kind of confusion in their day, and they like knowing what it is that they need to expect. Continue assigning tasks. Now the tasks might be a little bit more complex because they're more mature and they can handle a little bit more. You're going to encourage problem solving, start with goal setting. And as a parent, we need to listen to what they have to say. So it's really important to get their side of the story, what happened. Um, tell me a little bit more, and just kind of letting them know that we value what it is that they have to offer, and asking them more questions to get those cognitive skills going and developed. So, middle childhood, ages 9 to 11, you're going to see an increase in peer pressure. That importance of friendship is really going to get very strong at this stage, or it could. They start to become more aware of their bodies as puberty approaches. They begin to see the viewpoint of others, their attention span increasing. And at this stage, it's really important that we engage in meaningful conversations, that we ask them, what's going on with your friends? What's going on at school? What's going good? What would you like to change? What are some things that you do well? What are some things that are challenging? Having conversations about them respecting themselves. At this point, that peer pressure increasing. We have students as in this stage that they're experimenting with vaping or smoking or other risky behaviors or activities. Have those conversations with them about respecting their body, respecting themselves. Even if someone else does it, that doesn't mean that you have to do it. Continue to just have those honest and open conversations with them, helping them set goals, making sure that your rules are clear and that you stick to them, being involved in their school, trying to, go to parent teacher conferences, request parent teacher conferences, go to open house, go to, curriculum nights, really trying to get involved, letting them know the importance of schooling. And also at this point, we can start talking to our parents about some of the emotional and physical changes that will be taking place with puberty. And I know those are not always easy conversations to have. I've already had to have it 3 times, but just making sure that we're honest and open, because that's opening that open line of communication. When you have those open lines of communication, when something does come up, they're more likely to talk to you about it. So teenage years, so 12 to 14, woo, woo, woo. I have gone through it with my 23-year-old, with my 15-year-old, and now I'm doing it with Ansley, the 13-year-old. And this is definitely an interesting time because as a parent, you never know which side of your child you're going to get. Hormonal changes are taking place. They might become more concerned with their body image, what they look like, how others perceive them. They might feel stressed because they're thinking of high school, they're thinking of their future. They're going to have increased interest in their peers and more influenced by their social group. They develop a strong sense of right or wrong. They have the ability of complex thought. And with this, I cannot stress enough how important it is to just have honest and direct conversations with your teens. Um, get to know their friends, get to know their friends' families, show an interest in their interests, respect their opinion. It's at this point where they kind of start developing their own mind and thinking about what's right for them and what's wrong for them and having opinions on things. And just be open to that and just know that you may not always agree with how they feel or what they perceive to be correct, and just be open. Try not to shut them off if their thought process is different from yours. Encourage them to have friends that are positive and interested in things that they're interested in. So, my kiddos are kind of involved. They do archery, they do Girl Scouts. One is in band. One is soccer. So Griffin plays football. So just having them kind of talking to them about their peer group, and making sure that their peer groups are interested in positive things. Start having conversation about risk-taking behavior and what can happen as a result of risky behavior. Teenage years. That's another one. They start developing their own unique personality and opinions. Again, concern about body image and how others perceive them. Now you might see some increased interest in romantic relationships, that increased independence from parents. Um, they often have an increased risk of recklessness because a lot of our teenagers, they're thinking the here and the now. They're not thinking of the consequences of their actions. They start to be more concerned about like what they're going to do after school. So thinking about college, thinking about getting a career, what are they going to do after? Are they going to go into the military? Those conversations start happening. Um, and they can better tell you why it is that they feel or think what they're feeling and thinking. So with my 23-year-old at this point, she started thinking about different politics and different social things that were happening. And at this point, we had to start having conversations about, the way that she thought about some things versus how me and her dad thought about them. So they were some tough conversations, but just making sure that we stayed open and honest with each other and that we respected each other's viewpoints was really, really important. At this point, you kind of see them start to pull away a little bit. It's important that we respect their privacy, but yet still let them know, like, you're still under our roof. Our rules are still, pertaining, even though you're getting a little bit older and you have increased independence from us. It's still important that you follow the house expectations. Um, Talking to them about the dangers of drugs and drinking and smoking, and talking to them about the dangers of driving recklessly, and just answering questions honestly and directly. Also, at this point, and really in the earlier stages, in like the 12 and 13, I started talking to them about having a trusted adult. Like, you may not feel okay talking to mom and dad about everything, but find an adult that you trust that you can talk to them about. Talk to a counselor, talk to one of your teachers, talk to a friend's parent, talk to your aunt, talk to your uncle, talk to somebody so that you can let them know what it is you're going through. Um, and at this point, too, sometimes at during this stage, depression might be taking over, or they might experience sadness. So, um, talking to your teen about suicide and paying attention to warning signs is important at this age, especially if you see that your child has withdrawn and they're not doing things that they typically had done. Some of that is typical adolescent behavior, but as a parent, being aware and really being observant of your children's behavior is really important. So that pretty much covers all of the positive parenting tips that I wanted to go over. Now, please note that that is not an exclusive list. And also, I want you to know that I'm talking through my lens, what worked with my children, or what I've seen others worked, or what worked for me as a child or an adolescent. So know that everything I said might not work for you and your family, and that's okay. So I just as you view this, I just hope that you had an open mind, and I hope you took something away that, hey, I didn't do that right yesterday, but now I can try to do better, because every day is a new day. And even myself, having the information I have about brain-based learning and brain development and amygdala hijacking, I still make mistakes. I just try to do better the next opportunity. So I want you to think about that and reflect on that, um, after you kind of reflect and decompress after this session. Positive parenting and parenting, like I said, it's the hardest job I've ever had, and sometimes you just got to try something and see if it works. And if that doesn't work, be open to try something different. So That being said, I wanted to talk about Hazel Healthcare. Since on the last slide, I did talk about suicide and depression, and I have talked about mental wellness. I wanted to give you a tool. So, Hazel Healthcare is a service that the district offers at no charge to families. And as a parent, you can refer your student to virtual sessions with a licensed therapist. So I just wanted to show that to you, make sure that you're aware that this is something that we do offer. The QR code, if you want to scan the screen, will take you to the link so that you can refer your student. So I just wanted to let you know that that was available. And, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out and let us know. But thank you so much for attending. Here is my office number. This is my direct line. Here is my email. I look forward to questions. If there's any help or support I can offer, always willing to do that. And I just want to thank you for your attendance. And I hope I was able to answer some questions.
Thank you so much, Ms. Harris. That was some great, great information. I'm going to check the chat box. If you have any questions, please drop your questions in the chat box. And if you could check on your end, Ms. Harris, if you have any questions. But I do have some positive feedback for you, that you started the presentation off with some great information about the brain, and you did an awesome job. And please do this teaching with NCSS staff as a friendly reminder. We can never not know the benefit of continued exposure. And also, thank you so much. Very informative. So I don't have any questions
Awesome.
on my side, but what about you?
Awesome. I do not have any questions that I can see on my side. And just so that you know, we do staff development and I do offer staff development with our teachers. So actually last week or 2 weeks ago with new teachers, I did the power of praise. So I know I just had 3 slides on there, but like honestly, that's a whole topic in and of itself. Trauma is a whole topic in and of itself. But we do offer trainings for staff so that they understand, the brain development and how that works. I'm actually doing the power of praise this afternoon for a group of peer professionals. So we do our best to get the information out to everyone.
Awesome, awesome. So I don't have any questions and you don't either, but I do want to let everyone know that Ms. Harris mentioned Hazel Health. On our next Parent Connect session on February the 16th, we will actually have our partners from Hazel Health that will be on with us, and they'll provide some information about telehealth services for students. And so we're excited to have you join us, and we anticipate your participation. And we'd also like to invite you all out tomorrow at Newton High School. We'd like to invite you to our literacy extravaganza that will take place at Newton High School, and it's from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. And we actually have some great, great things. We're going to have a book giveaway. We're going to have some authors that will be available to actually sign their books and give book talks. And we'll have something for everyone from littles all the way to adults. So please come out, bring your families, bring your cousins, bring your families all over the place. Please come, and it is a free event, and we look forward to seeing you there. Until next time, you all have a great weekend, and we'll see you February 16th. Bye.
Bye.